There are a lot of things that Subaru owners believe about maintaining their cars that's flat out wrong. Some of these myths are even causing damage to engines, transmissions, and destroying the reliability of your Subaru. Things like lifetime fluids, 10,000-mile oil changes, or that modern vehicles don't need to warm up. The list goes on and on. In today's video, we're going to be dissecting myth from truth, fact from fiction on how to properly maintain your Subaru and keep it on the road for many years to come and many miles ahead. For those of you that have watched me for any amount of time, you know I'm not into a bunch of marketing BS. What looks good on paper rarely works in the real world. We're cutting through the red tape, talking about what actually fails in the real world versus what recommendations you hear from the manufacturers. Starting off the list, number one biggest joke when it comes to maintenance and Subaru vehicles is lifetime fluid. Now, specifically talking about the CVT fluid. Newsflash, there's no such thing as a lifetime fluid. I don't know how many times, don't care how many times Subaru of America says it, your Subaru dealership says it, there is no magical fluid that will last for a lifetime in any vehicle. It doesn't matter if it's engine oil, transmission fluid, differential gear oil, brake fluid, etc. They all break down. They all wear down. Additives break down. Heat cycles, age, mileage destroys the fluid. Contamination builds up in it, and it must be replaced. It must be renewed. It must be drained and refilled. There is no magic silver bullet when it comes to talking about fluids, even the CVT fluid. Now, there's a lot of people out there that believe what Subaru of America or Subaru dealership tells them and do not ever touch that CVT fluid. And then about 120,000 miles or so, they start having issues with their CVT or it flat out fails and they're scratching their head wondering why. It's because they never serviced the transmission, never replaced that fluid. This whole lifetime fluid malarkey came about with a lot of the higher end European cars about 20 years ago or so. And that was basically to show lower cost of ownership. They didn't have to bring their cars back to the dealership, when they had a lease or they bought a new car every 2 years. It didn't really matter. It was just for the warranty period, more or less. We get you through the warranty and then we don't care about the car anymore because it's secondhand, third hand, fourth hand, wherever. Now we see Japanese manufacturers adopting this and American manufacturers with this whole lifetime fluid bunk. And now they're showing a lower cost of ownership and you don't have to come to the dealership as much. There's not as many services anymore to make it look like it's more affordable to own this vehicle while you flush reliability down the drain. They only care about the vehicle until the warranty period is gone and it's in the hands of the second or third owner. At that point, it doesn't really matter anymore. So if you want your CVT to fail prematurely, go ahead and never change the fluid. But if you want to last over 250,000 miles, 300,000 miles, etc., change that transmission fluid. Do regular drain and refills every 30, 60,000 miles, somewhere in there. Get that old fluid out, put new fluid in to replace it, and prolong the life of your CVT. A lot of the bad rep that Subaru CVTs get is from the lack of maintenance causing failures. Number two on the list comes down to the 10,000-mile oil change or extended length oil changes, like the 6,000 miles that Subaru now recommends. Subaru and other manufacturers are recommending these longer intervals due to synthetic oils and also, again, to show a lower cost of ownership, showing that you don't have to bring your car in all the time for all this periodic maintenance. They stretch it out even further so it's not as troublesome. The problem with that is that it does not work for Subarus and the Boxer engine, especially if you're a short trip driver, have a turbocharged Subaru, or live in very hot or very cold climates. It's not for you. The 10,000 mile, 6,000 mile, these extended range oil changes are meant for people that drive a lot, like a lot of highway and interstate miles, a pretty constant engine speed, racking up mile after mile where you're not constantly having to change the oil every week, every 2 weeks, etc. It's not meant for you short trippers, you cold or hot climate people, or you with a turbocharged Subaru. Literally not really great for any of the boxer engines. There's the timing chains, there's lots of small clearances, and just the way the boxer engine is, it is more susceptible to sludging up with these longer intervals, even with that higher mileage recommended synthetic oil. I see it pretty regularly where people are not changing their oil frequently enough. Sludge is building up, they might have timing codes, and just generally causing damage long-term to their engine for the savings of less than $100 for a synthetic oil change. If you've got a Subaru that is naturally aspirated, I wouldn't go more than 5,000 miles on an oil change. That's what I do personally to my vehicle. If you're turbocharged, 3,000 to 5,000 miles would be the optimal interval, depending on how hard you are on the car, what you do with the car, and the driving conditions that you are in most of the time with it. Number 3 is the people that say all oil and oil filters are the same. They save and pinch pennies on the cheapest oil they can get and throw whatever junk filter they can find for the least amount of money on their engine. It's kind of weird that people will spend $40,000 to $50,000 on a car and pinch pennies when it comes time for oil changes that are crucial, the lifeblood of that engine and that car. Cheaper oil versus more expensive oil. Now, you don't need to go buy unicorn tier racing oil, the top tier premium stuff with gold flake in it, but there is a big difference between cheap bargain oil and a good reputable brand synthetic. The additives are different, how they break down through heat, wear, and mileage are different, and the way they shear is differently. Now, if you don't believe me, you can run the junk stuff in your car and find out when it's time to replace an engine due to a spun rod bearing, or you could just take my word for it and put a premium or at least a reputable brand synthetic oil in your vehicle. Same comes with engine oil filters. People buy the cheap junk filters that could bypass early, have inadequate filtration, and can restrict flow versus a good filter that is going to keep that engine running for miles and miles to come. Section 4 is not letting your engine warm up or thinking that modern engines don't need to warm up or modern vehicles don't need to warm up. Now, this one we've talked about several times in the past, made even a video about it. But the thing is that a lot of people still don't quite understand it. Every year around winter, all these articles come out and confuse people even more. Now, I'm not saying that a modern vehicle needs to sit and idle for 20 minutes before you take off and drive it, whether it is a 70-degree day or a negative 30 day. What I'm saying is that you don't want to jump into an ice-cold car and start hammering down the road. With a modern fuel-injected engine, you can let it run for a minute or two. As we talked about in the past, most Subarus on the dashboard have that blue coolant indicator. You want to go to white or to turn off depending on how old or new your car is before you start driving at a normal rate. But prior to that, you want to take it slow. The engine has to warm up. All the metal parts have to expand. You also have to think about things other than the engine and the coolant. That CVT fluid, the differential gear oil, all of that stuff is cold, it is thicker, and it needs to warm up, come up to temperature too. So don't go letting the car run for 30 minutes before driving it, but also don't jump in it and hammer on it right away. There is a warm up needed. It just isn't the same as it used to be with old carbureted vehicles. Number 5 is Subarus just burn oil, or people just flat out ignoring their oil level or consumption issues. People assume, or a lot of people assume, in my opinion, that Subarus just consume oil because of the way they are. Now, a little bit of consumption is absolutely normal in a Subaru engine, or any other engine for that matter, but consuming a quart or more between oil changes is not normal. There is a difference. The problem here comes in where people just start ignoring it. They wait for the little low oil light to come on, and then they worry about it. The problem is that little light isn't a, hey, it's time to check your oil light. It's you might have already done damage to your engine light. You need to check your oil frequently and regularly. You need to keep spare oil with you if you know you have consumption issues to prevent long-term damage to the engine. It's not that hard when filling up at the gas station to pop the hood, put the hood prop in place, pull the dipstick out, check the oil level, and make sure you're good. If you're not, adjust. But don't count on that little warning light to save you. You need to stay on top of the engine oil level. It's your lifeblood. It's going to keep the engine running. You run it low, you're going to spin a rod bearing, you're going to have a bad time, and you're going to be crying from the pain when it comes time to replace that engine or replace the car because you didn't take 2 seconds to check your oil and keep it to the optimal level. Number 6 on the list is dealerships do everything right, or indie shops or quick lubes for that matter. We can lump them all together. A lot of people are under this mindset that going to the Subaru dealership every single time you have a check engine light on, or you need periodic maintenance, or anytime they send you a flyer in the mail, shoot you an email or a text, that your car will be tip-top, perfect, well-maintained, and never give you trouble. There are great technicians at the dealership. There are horrible technicians at the dealership. You never know which one is going to pull your ticket and pull your car into their bay. You have to stay active, whether it's at the dealership or at an independent shop, in the maintenance and care of your vehicle. Ask questions, ask for documentation, ask for verification of repairs or maintenance performed. No one is going to care about your Subaru more than you do. All the time I get stuff from the Subaru dealerships in the area or independent shops where they've rounded off a drain plug, broken wheel studs, put the wrong fluids in a car, not done the service correctly, underfilled the car, or just broken stuff. It happens all the time. Even big things like misdiagnosis. So never blindly trust what the dealership is telling you or the independent shop is telling you. It's always good to get a second opinion, and always good to check over their work and check over their back. Number 7 is if there's no check engine light or warning light, everything is perfectly fine with my vehicle. Now, I hear this one quite a bit where people say, well, I don't have any lights on, so it must not be any kind of issue with the car. And a lot of times that's not true, or not entirely true. You can have issues long before that light or any other lights on the dash crop up. Things like out of whack fuel trims, dirty injectors, dirty mass airflow sensor, clogging up filters, weak sensors or lazy sensors. All of that stuff can cause dramatic losses in miles per gallon, as we talked about in last week's video, drivability and reliability long before that light finally comes on. That light is not an early indicator or early warning of a issue. A lot of times it's, hey, things have been pretty rough for a while, and now it's so rough that I have to warn you about it. Light. A lot of these Subaru maintenance myths exist because of great marketing, people wanting longer service intervals for convenience, and people wanting a cheaper ownership experience. But if your end goal is long life, reliability, and higher mileage out of your Subaru, you need to go in a different direction than what you've heard. Because the people getting 250,000 miles, 300,000 miles, and plus out of their Subarus are not the ones doing the bare minimum. Guys, let me know down in the comment section below, what is the worst Subaru maintenance advice you have ever gotten, and what is one myth around Subaru maintenance that people still believe that drives you absolutely insane? Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for future Subaru and Tool content. I'll see you guys in the next one.